colony outpost was quiet that day. Jack, the only human engineer around, worked under the hot alien sun. He was fixing an old water purifier that broke down again. The machine was stubborn, leaking and humming like an angry animal. Jack sighed and wiped the sweat off his forehead. The colony was small, surrounded by dense forests that no one liked to explore. People said strange things lived out there. Jack never believed those stories until that day. As Jack twisted the bolts and checked the pipes, he felt eyes watching him. It wasn't just a feeling, it was sharp, heavy, like something waiting to be seen. He stood up and looked around but saw nothing, just the trees swaying gently in the wind. Jack shook his head and returned to work. Hours passed and the feeling never left. Then he saw movement between the trees, a shadow, small and quick. Jack grabbed his wrench. Just in case, he called out, "Who's there?" No answer then. From the trees, a figure slowly stepped out. It was small, not quite a child, not quite an adult. Her skin was violet, smooth and shining softly under the sun. She had silver eyes that seemed to glow. Two short head crests rose from her head, pulsing faintly with blue light. She looked nervous, her hands clasped in front of her chest. Jack stared, unsure whether to run or speak. Then, with a shy but serious voice, she said, "I'm practically an adult human." Jack blinked, confused. He lowered his wrench, his curiosity stronger than his fear. "Okay, what does that mean?" he asked. The alien girl shifted her feet, eyes darting away. "It means I can talk to you without getting in trouble, I think," she muttered. Jack chuckled, relaxing a bit. She didn't look dangerous, just awkward. "What's your name?" he asked. She straightened her back proudly. "Zila, I'm from the Threxel people. I came here for my proving phase, but I got lost." Jack didn't know what a proving phase was, but he understood lost. "How long have you been out there?" he asked. Zila looked away. "I don't know. Many sun cycles." Her voice was soft, and she looked thinner than she should be. Jack sighed, feeling a bit of pity. He couldn't just send her away. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Zila's eyes brightened, but she tried to act like she wasn't desperate. A little. She whispered. Jack led her to his small camp. He gave her some protein bars and water. Zila ate carefully, but it was clear she was starving. Jack watched her, amazed. He never thought he'd meet an alien up close, let alone share food. "Why did you come here alone?" he asked. Zila wiped her mouth. "My people send us out to prove we can survive alone. When we come back, we earn our adulthood," she explained. Jack frowned. "That sounds dangerous." Zila shrugged. "It's the way of the Threxel." Over the next few days, Zila kept coming back. She watched Jack work, asking questions. She was curious about human machines. Fascinated by tools and wires, Jack found her company amusing. She tried to help, though she often messed things up. Still, Jack taught her basic things: how to cook simple food, how to make a fire. He even made her a small toolkit. Zila wore it proudly, saying it made her look official. Despite all her bravado, Zila was still young. She got scared by loud noises, got frustrated when she couldn't understand things. But every time she stumbled, she stood up and declared, "I'm practically an adult." Jack laughed every time. He couldn't help but feel protective of her. But Jack knew this couldn't last. The colony wouldn't be happy if they found out. And Zila kept saying she needed to finish her proving. One morning, Jack woke up too. Find her gone, no note, no sign, just silence. He waited for days, but she never returned. Sometimes he thought he saw shadows in the trees, but no one stepped out. Jack tried to forget, but some part of him missed her. The strange little alien who wanted so badly to be grown up. Years passed and life moved on, but Jack often wondered, what happened to Zila? Did she make it back to her people? Did she survive? Or was she still out there, watching? Jack never knew, but fate wasn't done with them yet, because soon Zila would return. And she wouldn't be the shy little girl anymore. Years passed quietly on the colony. Jack was older now, his hair touched with gray, but his hands were still steady with tools. He became the chief engineer, the one everyone called when machines broke or power flickered. But even as he worked, something heavy lingered inside him. He often looked at the trees surrounding the colony, remembering the violet-skinned girl who once watched him from the shadows. Zila. He sometimes wondered if she had survived, or if the forest had claimed her. No one else ever saw her, and sometimes Jack doubted his own memory. But trouble was brewing. Machines began to fail more often, power grids flickering without reason, water systems clogging even when no faults were detected. People whispered about sabotage, but no one could catch anyone in the act. Supplies that were dropped from orbit vanished before they reached the depot. Jack started to suspect that something or someone was moving through the trees. Watching them again, but no proof ever surfaced. Then came the raiders, not humans but aliens, with armor of bone and skin, as dark as midnight. They attacked nearby settlements, leaving only destruction. Jack's colony prepared defenses, but everyone was nervous. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that these raiders were connected to the shadows he once saw in the forest. Then one stormy night, the colony alarms screamed. Jack rushed outside, the rain pouring in heavy sheets. Guards had spotted movement at the perimeter, a figure standing just beyond the lights. Weapons raised, they shouted warnings, but the figure didn't run. Instead, it stepped forward slowly, hands raised. Through the rain, Jack saw her, violet skin, silver eyes glowing faintly, taller, stronger, confident, yet familiar. Zila. Jack whispered. She smiled softly, the rain dripping down her face. I told you, human. I was practically an adult back then. Jack stood frozen. It was truly her. No longer a shy teen, but a warrior in her own right. Yet there was something urgent in her eyes. She wasn't just here to visit, she was here because of the danger. Jack approached, ignoring the guards who still pointed their rifles. What are you doing here? He asked. Zila glanced at the guards, then back to Jack. I came to warn you, my people, the Threxel. They're coming, she said quietly, but not as friends. The guards tensed, and so did Jack. Why? We've done nothing to them, Jack argued. Zila's eyes darkened. There are those among my people who see humans as invaders. They believe this land belongs to us, to the Threxel. The warbands are on their way, and if they reach you, they won't stop at this colony. They'll burn everything. Jack stared at her. She had grown not just in body, but in burden. What about you? Whose side are you on? He asked. Zila's voice cracked slightly. I warned you, didn't I? I learned from you, human. I don't want war. I want peace. But I had to leave my people to bring this warning. They'll call me a traitor, but I had to try. The guards didn't trust her. They wanted to lock her up, question her. But Jack stood between them. She's telling the truth, he said firmly. I knew her when she was young. She's not here to lie. Still, the colony council was divided. Some believed Zila was bait, a trick. Others thought it was too dangerous to ignore her warning. Meanwhile, Zila revealed what she knew. Secret paths in the forest, hidden camps, and the signs of an advancing warband. Jack followed her deep into the trees, where she showed him old Threxel symbols carved into stone. Markings of warbands, of conquest. They were closer than anyone thought. As they returned to the colony, Jack watched Zila walking ahead. She moved like a shadow, confident and quiet. But sometimes she looked back at Jack, her eyes softened. Like the young girl who once asked him how to light a fire. A storm was coming. Jack knew the colony wasn't ready. The only one who could guide them through it was the alien girl who once declared herself practically an adult. Now she had returned as something more, but the question was, would they listen to her in time? The council gathered in the colony's central hall. Leaders, engineers, and soldiers argued loudly. At the center stood Zila, silent but proud, her violet skin gleaming under the cold lights. She didn't flinch at the harsh stares, or whispered insults. She had expected this. Jack stood by her side, his voice rough with frustration. She's telling the truth. We can't ignore this warning, he said, but many didn't agree to them. She was still an alien, and possibly a spy. Why? Would a Threxel warrior betray her own people? But if this was a trap? Zila's silver eyes scanned the room. She didn't beg. She didn't explain further. Instead, She raised her hand and projected a small hologram from a device on her wrist. It displayed the forest surrounding the colony, paths marked in glowing red. "These are the routes the warband scouts have taken," she said firmly. "This is not a threat. It is a promise. They are watching you right now." The room fell silent. Even the loudest doubters grew uneasy. Zila continued. "The warband is led by General Varnak. He is ruthless. He believes humans have insulted our ancestors by building here. He won't negotiate. He will attack. And when he does, you'll be unprepared unless you trust me." Jack saw the doubt fading from some faces, but others still glared. He stepped forward. "She knows their ways, their tactics, if we have any chance of surviving." It's by listening to her. After long hours of debate, the council reluctantly agreed. Zila would help, but under watch. If she lied, she'd be the first to fall. Zila accepted this coldly. She had risked everything, her home, her people. Her future for this? She didn't expect kindness. Only the chance to stop the bloodshed. She led Jack and a squad deep into the forest. She moved swiftly, her body blending with the shadows. Jack struggled to keep up. He watched how she touched the trees, checked the soil, listened to distant sounds. She was born of this world, and it spoke to her in ways no human could understand. They reached an ancient Threxel ruin, stone pillars covered in glowing moss. Symbols of war and history carved deep. Zila pointed to a specific symbol, a three-clawed mark inside a circle. "That is Varnak's mark," she said. "He's been here and he left this as a message. It means he claims this land, and any who stand on it are enemies." Jack touched the symbol, the groove still fresh. "How long do we have?" he asked. Zila's gaze was cold. "Not long. He's watching even now. Testing your defenses." That night, back in the colony, strange sounds echoed beyond the walls, clicking noises like bones tapping together. Faint shadows moved just beyond the lights, never fully seen. Guards fired into the dark, but found nothing. The colony was being watched, hunted. Jack stood on the walls with Zila. "You're sure they're testing us?" he asked. Zila nodded. "They want to see where you're weak. Once they know, they will strike without mercy." Jack looked at her, seeing not just the warrior she'd become, but the curious girl she once was. "What happens if we lose?" he asked quietly. Zila's eyes were heavy with sadness. "Then Varnak will make sure no human colony rises again on this world." The next day, Jack and Zila worked together. She showed them how to hide traps in the ground, how to disguise movement. She trained the guards to listen for the unnatural clicks the Threxel made when they communicated silently. Slowly, some humans began to respect her knowledge, though others still whispered doubts. One evening, Zila stood alone on the wall. Watching the forest, Jack joined her. "You didn't have to come back," he said. Zila smiled faintly. "I did," she whispered. "You taught me to build, to create. I couldn't watch it all be destroyed." Jack nodded. Understanding more than she knew, the war was coming, the hidden enemy watching from the shadows. But Jack wasn't afraid, not with Zela beside him. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. Asterisk. The first strike came before dawn. Mist hung over the colony, thick and cold. It wrapped around the walls, hiding everything beyond a few meters. Silence sat heavy, but Zila was already awake. Standing on the highest watch point, Jack found her there, eyes sharp and unblinking. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. Zila didn't look at him. "They're here. I can smell them in the mist," she whispered. Then the sound came, soft clicks. Distant at first, then everywhere. The guards panicked, guns raised, eyes scanning the white haze. Suddenly, from the fog, a spear flew, striking a guard clean off the wall. Screams echoed as shadows emerged, swift and silent, Threxel warriors in dark armor, their eyes glowing red in the mist. The colony had never seen them up close before. They weren't just soldiers, they were hunters. Moving like wolves, cutting down anyone too slow to react, Zila roared, a deep guttural sound Jack had never heard from her. She leaped from the watch point, landing hard with her staff drawn, Her staff wasn't just a stick, it cracked with energy. Slicing the first Threxel that charged her, Jack ran to sound the alarm, shouting orders. Defensive positions. Don't let them into the center. The colony's walls shook with the clash of weapons. Bullets tore through the mist, but the Threxel were too fast. Zella fought like she was born for war, spinning, striking, her body moving with brutal grace. But there were too many. Jack grabbed his old rifle, his hands steady, even as fear tried to shake him. He shot one Threxel that was about to strike Zela from behind. She turned, eyes wide for just a second. You fight better than you fix things. Human. She shouted with a grin. Jack chuckled breathlessly. Don't let me down then. The colony's people fought with everything they had. Traps Zela had taught them to build, sprung from the ground. Spears, nets, hidden explosives. For every Threxel that fell, 2 more took their place. Then Zela spotted him, a tall figure watching from the mist's edge. A hulking Threxel, scarred and armored in bone Varnock. He didn't move. He just watched as his warriors tested the colony's strength. Zela growled low. He's measuring us, seeing if we're worth a full assault, she muttered. But the colony wasn't breaking. The humans held their lines. Zela's presence was the center of their defense. She moved where the fight was worst. Jack stayed close, covering her back in that chaos. Something between them changed. They weren't just fighting together. They were relying on each other. Like old friends who remembered how it all began as the sun began to rise. The Threxel blew a sharp horn, and just like that, they retreated into the mist, leaving bodies and blood, but no victory. They had tested the humans and knew now. They wouldn't fall easily, breathing hard. Zela leaned on her staff. Jack walked up to her. Bruised and covered in ash. That was just a test, wasn't it? He asked. Zela nodded. Yes, next time, they'll come with everything. The colony licked its wounds, burying the dead. Some colonists who doubted Zela now looked at her with respect. Even gratitude, but others still whispered. She brought this here. If she hadn't come, maybe they wouldn't have attacked. Jack heard these whispers and hated them. That night, as the fires burned low, he found Zela sitting alone. She stared at the stars. Silent and heavy, Jack sat beside her. I'm glad you came back, Zela, he said quietly. She looked at him, eyes sad. I never wanted to bring this here, but I couldn't let you all die unaware, she whispered. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. You didn't bring this. You gave us a chance. Zela smiled faintly. You always were stubborn, human, but deep inside, Zela, knew Varnock wouldn't stop. He was coming, and next time there would be no retreat, only war. For 3 days, the forest stayed silent. No shadows moved, no clicks echoed beyond the colony walls. But Zela didn't relax. She knew what was coming. Then, on the 4th morning, a figure appeared just beyond the outer defenses. Tall, broad, armored in layers of bone and metal. His skin was darker than midnight, his eyes like burning coals. It was Varnock, general of the Threxel warband. He didn't sneak in. He walked proudly, alone, daring anyone to shoot. Guards raised their rifles, but Jack held up his hand. Wait, he's not here to fight. Not yet. Zela stood beside Jack, her jaw clenched. I know that look, she muttered. He's here to give us a choice. Varnock stopped within earshot, his voice deep and harsh. Humans, hear me, he called. You shelter a traitor among you, Zela of the Threxel. Hand her over, and we will let some of you live. Refuse, and we'll burn your walls and bury your bones in the dirt. The words carried like thunder. Jack stared at Zela. She stood tall, her staff firm in her grip. She stepped forward, her voice clear. I won't run, Varnock. If you want me, come. Take me yourself, Varnock laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. Expected more courage from a would-be adult, Zela. You stand with these soft creatures? Then you'll die with them. He turned and vanished back into the forest. The message was clear the next time he came. It would be with fire and blood. The colony was shaken. The council gathered again, arguments breaking out louder than before. Some shouted that they should give Zela up, save themselves. Others argued that Varnock would kill them anyway. Jack slammed his fist on the table. He'll kill us all, even if we surrender her. You saw what they did in the other settlements? We stand or we die. Zila watched them fight, her expression blank. She already knew the answer. Later that night, she packed her things quietly. She planned to leave alone. If she wasn't here, maybe Varnak would spare them. But Jack caught her at the gate. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked. Zila didn't meet his eyes. "You know why? I'm not risking more lives for my choices." Jack grabbed her arm, firm but gentle. "You think leaving will save us?" "You're wrong. We need you. I need you," he said. Zila's throat tightened. "I don't want to see you die because of me," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "We die either way if we don't fight. But with you here, we have a chance." Zila hesitated, then slowly dropped her pack. She stayed together. She and Jack began planning. They mapped the colony, counted every bullet, every explosive, but it wasn't enough. Then Zila remembered something. An ancient Threxel device hidden deep in the ruins. A pulse generator that could disable Threxel biotech weapons, but it hadn't been used in generations. Activating it meant going into the tunnels beneath the old ruins, dangerous and unstable. Jack looked at the map. "If it works, it could give us the edge," he said. Zila nodded. "But it might also kill us before the warband even arrives." They both smiled faintly, knowing the risk, but there was no other choice. The next morning, they prepared a small team. They would sneak into the ruins, power the ancient device, and pray it still worked. Meanwhile, the colony readied for war. Walls reinforced, traps reset, weapons distributed. Everyone knew what was coming. The final assault. But Jack wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Because when he looked at Zila, he didn't just see the alien girl who once declared herself practically an adult. He saw a warrior, a partner, someone he would fight and die beside if it came to. That the storm was almost here, and together they would face it, at the break of dawn. The sky burned red, the wind carried the sound of drums, deep, steady, getting closer with every beat. The colony stood quiet, every soul awake and armed, children hidden in shelters, guards on every wall. Jack stood near the main gate, his old rifle strapped to his back. Beside him stood Zela, adjusting her armored vest, her staff glowing faintly. She looked at the horizon, where shadows moved like waves. "They're here," she whispered. Jack swallowed hard, his eyes following hers. A sea of Threxel warriors was approaching, hundreds of them, banners of bone and hide flapped in the wind. At the front marched Varnak, his massive frame towering above all. His eyes burned with fury, locked on the colony walls. "They'll try to overwhelm us fast," Zila said. "We need that pulse generator." Jack nodded. Their small team had already gone into the ruins underground. If the device worked, it would disable Threxel weapons and give the colony a fighting chance. But no signal had come yet. No sign of success. Varnak raised his clawed hand. A single signal. Then the Threxel charged, a wave of teeth, claws, and weapons made of living bone. The walls shook as the first attackers slammed against them. Gunfire erupted, traps exploded, but still they climbed. Jack fired shot after shot. But they kept coming. Beside him, Zila fought fiercely, her staff slicing through bone armor like it was paper. But the Threxel were too many, they breached. A side gate, storming into the colony, screams filled the air, smoke rising as fires caught. Zila and Jack moved together, covering each other's backs. She moved like a shadow, quick and lethal. Jack kept his aim steady, dropping any who got too close. Still, the tide was turning against them. Suddenly, Zila grabbed Jack's arm. "We need to get to the generator. If it doesn't activate, we're finished," she urged. Jack didn't hesitate. Together, they pushed through the chaos, running for the ruins. Inside, the air was damp, heavy with dust and echoes. Their team was still struggling. The generator old, rusted, barely holding power. "We can't get it stable," one of the engineers cried. Jack rushed to the console, his hands moving instinctively. Zila stood guard, her staff ready, as distant sounds of pursuit echoed through the tunnels. Jack's fingers flew over ancient controls. He didn't fully understand the alien tech, but he knew machines. They all spoke the same language in wires and pulses. Finally, with a loud hum, the generator lit up, casting blue light everywhere. "Is it working?" Zila asked breathlessly. Jack looked at the readings. "It better be," he muttered. He slammed the activation switch. A low pulse echoed through the ground. For a moment, the entire colony seemed to shiver. Outside, the Threxel warriors screamed in shock. Their weapons died in their hands, bone guns cracking, energy blades flickering out. The advantage was gone. The humans seized the moment, pushing back hard. Now the Threxel fought with bare claws, but they were slower, weaker. The colony regained ground. Forcing them out, Varnak roared in rage, his massive frame storming towards the ruins. Zila and Jack stood together at the tunnel's exit. Varnak appeared, eyes blazing. You did this?" he bellowed. Zila stepped forward, her voice steady. "Yes, and I'll end it too." Varnak charged. Zila met him head-on. Their weapons clashing with sparks and bone, Jack fired shots, but Varnak shrugged them off like dust. Still, Zila stood firm, matching his strikes. Using every trick Jack had taught her years ago, finally she found her moment with a sharp strike. She shattered Varnak's weapon, then she drove her staff into his chest. The great Threxel general fell to his knees, gasping, but instead of finishing him, Zila spoke. "This didn't have to happen, but you made it so." Varnak's eyes dimmed, his last breath a growl of defiance. He collapsed, dead. The remaining Threxel saw their leader fall and fled into the forest. The colony was saved. Smoke rose, but the walls still stood. The people cheered, exhausted but alive. Jack stood beside Zila, breathing hard. "You did it," he said. Zila shook her head softly. "We did it," she replied, and, for the first time in days, she smiled. The last stand was over, but something new was beginning. The fires burned low as the sun rose over the battered colony. The ground was stained with blood and ash, but the walls still stood. Smoke hung in the air. But there was something new with the morning light. Silence. Peace. The kind that only comes after surviving something deadly. Jack stood on the wall, staring at the forest beyond. The Threxel warband was gone. Scattered and broken, they wouldn't come back soon, but Jack knew this peace wasn't permanent. Zila stood beside him, her violet skin marked with bruises and dust. She stared at the horizon, thoughtful. "You saved them," Jack said softly. Zila shook her head. "We saved each other," she whispered. Word spread across the colony. The alien who had once been doubted was now their protector. The people who once called her a threat now nodded in respect. Children peeked from behind walls, curious, smiling. Lus smiled back, a little awkward, unused to such attention. The council offered her a place among them, an honorary protector. But Zila hesitated. "I didn't come to stay," she said at first. But when she looked at Jack, her voice faltered. She remembered the lonely human who once taught her how to cook, how to fix things, the one who never laughed at her when. She said, "I'm practically an adult." Jack caught her gaze, his voice warm. "You don't have to decide now, but you should know. You're not alone here anymore." That night, as the stars bloomed across the sky, Zila and Jack sat together on the colony's roof. The air was cool, peaceful. Zila looked up, eyes reflecting the stars. "In my people's tradition, when someone survives their proving, they earn their adulthood," she said. Jack chuckled. "You've more than earned it." Zila smiled shyly. "I used to think proving meant surviving alone, but maybe being grown means knowing who to stand with." Jack nodded. "Maybe that's why you came back," said Zila, glanced at him, her silver eyes soft. "Maybe I came back for you," she admitted, her voice low. They sat in silence, the bond between them stronger than words. Not just human and alien, not just friends, but something else, something waiting to be named. A connection forged through battles, trust, and time in the following weeks. The colony rebuilt with Zila's help. She taught them how to understand the forest, how to avoid old Threxel ruins. Jack worked with her every day, side by side, and each day, the colony became less a place of survival and more a home one evening. Zila stood by the same purifier where she had first met Jack. She traced her fingers over the old metal, smiling. Jack approached, his hands in his pockets, still claiming to be practically an adult. He teased. Zella laughed softly. I think I'm finally grown up now. Human, she replied. Jack smiled. You've been more grown up than you think, Zella. And as the stars watched silently from above, they stood together, not as human. An alien, not as protector and settler, but as two souls who had found each other in the most unexpected place, and in that new beginning. Nothing felt foreign anymore. Together they faced the future, whatever it might bring.